to the channel, guys. We're going to film the intro to this video, but it is a miserable, cold, wet, rainy November day, and we are sitting here in the office. We've gotten a lot of our office work completed, and not really any shop work to do right now. Well, actually there is, but we're not going to do it. But I had this idea to go back and look at a lot of our old videos and explain what was going on at the time, and just looking back at things after some time has passed. And you know, I thought it might give us the chance to give a lot of our newer viewers a history on where we started, how far we've come, and just our journey to where we are farming now, farming around that 1,000-acre mark. So I started with a few things, but we've had to make a lot of improvements over the years, but it is possible to start farming from nothing if you got the grit and determination. So I'm going to transition from this over to my computer screen, and then Robert and I will start watching some of our old videos and talking about them. Alright, welcome to our new Throwback Thursday series, where we go back and look at older videos that we made and do a voiceover and tell what was happening at the time. We really hope you enjoy this and enjoy a trip back to the past. These are pictures that was taken from 2009 to 2016, and one of the first videos I ever made. So first clip up here, Robert, tell us what we got. What are we looking at here?
This was the first ton truck we ever had. It was only a two-wheel drive, but it was a pretty cool truck. Bought it at auction. It was a gas burner, had a 5-speed, and the only reason we got rid of it was I think it needed synchronizers.
Needed synchronizers in the transmission, and plus it was a two-wheel drive, and you could pee in front of the tires and get stuck. But
other than that, it was a really good truck.
We love it. Absolutely love that truck. Loved this 11-foot bed. It's kind of like a 1.5-ton truck.
Yeah.
Kind of wish we had this bed on the truck we got now. Had a lot more room for activities. Moving on. This is the way the 4640 pretty well looked when my granddad was running it. He liked the mufflers. He had a toolbox there, and this was before we put the front end blade on. Good old set of wore out rice and cane tires on it. This is over at Mr. Larry Hill's shelling corn 4-row header. It was two cut up to unload on the go. Cutting some beans in the dark. This was our 6620 when we first brought it home. Bought it down in Nebo. Paid $10,000 for it. And we ran it for 4 years and got $10,000 back out of it, and probably put $10,000 worth of parts in it. So y'all can take that for what you will, but not many people can run a combine for 4 years and get what they paid for it. Here is some wheat that we grew. This was back before I fungicided wheat, and you can see some black heads in there. A blowout on them wore out rice and cane tires, and that is one of the best things that could ever happen to us, because we finally got a new set of Firestone tires. That liquid you see inside the tire is fluid that's used for ballast or weight to help the tractor
get better traction. Those are the brand new Firestone tires that we replaced them with. And back then I was so poor I had to borrow money from Daddy to be able to afford to put them tires on. But after putting them tires on, it felt like we was riding on a cloud. First garden I ever had, baby Grace in the garden. Got some pepper plants there, some squash, okra. We thought Grace was just the most amazing thing there was back then. But look at that big pile of squash and cucumbers. Had some carrots right here. Had a big garden when Michelle and I first got married, and now neither one of us have time to have a garden. Some 30-inch row beans. I think that was the first big bean crop I had.
I think they were cropland seed beans.
Yeah, they was Cropland 5371s, Roundup Readies. Right here was my old black truck I had, and I had just bought a brand new bush hog. And that's the bush hog that we still have. Never really ended up using that bush hog as much as I thought I would, but we still got it. There's Robert. He's the first one to get to run the bush hog. At this time, you can tell we had put a little better tires on the inside, but we're still running wore out rice and canes on the outside.
Used to do a lot more bush hogging back in the day.
Yeah, it's amazing how much more bush hogging you do when you work less acres and have more time. This is building a pond. We'll come back to it in a minute.
You see Dylan done put a chrome straight pipe on it.
That was a 5-inch straight pipe. This is cutting the second bean crop off my farm. This was the first year I had bought it. You can see here 10/9/2011. That's my granddad's John Deere 4400 combine. You see old hot pink pants there. That's my Michelle. That would have been a month after we got married. She used to would come ride with me, and now I got a combine with the air conditioning and a buddy seat, and she won't hardly come ride with me anymore. That's us putting beans on the gravity wagon. That was my granddaddy Walt's gravity wagon, and my granddaddy Bobo's 4400 combine. So lots of family history there in that picture. I was cutting some 4-7 Ash Grove beans right there. Before quality cell phone pictures. This is an old cell phone picture. This is building a pond, and this pond has natural springs in it, and you can tell how the pond is filling up with water as we dig it. And what is going on here, Robert?
Dylan got stuck with the dirt pan again. So he's been getting them stuck for a long time.
Pretty common occurrence, getting stuck with a dirt pan.
In places he really should not be.
Says Robert. But here you can see how muddy the bottom of that pond was as we dig it and as it filled up with water. This is our cousin William with a backhoe, and he is digging the trench for our overflow pipe. It has an overflow pipe as well as a spillway right here. And to finish the bottom of that pond, I had to take a box blade and just drag the mud out of the bottom of it. As you can tell here, did not get the bottom of this pond as finished as I would have liked. So okay guys, for some reason the sound corrupted on the previous video, so I'm having to go back and redo some of this without Robert. So if we lose If you no longer hear Robert, that's what happened. But we'll try to get this whole process ironed out as we go. This is my first truck I ever bought with my own money, a 99 Z71. That's how I had it fixed up. I had 315 Firestone mud tires, a brush guard. I put cab lights on it, had straight pipes on it. It was a loud old truck, son. People could hear me coming from miles away. Really miss that truck sometimes. Here's the pond as it's filling up with water. We had a really wet October. We put straw on the bank of it, and you can see the wheat coming up around the pond bank there. That's my granddad's 4400 combine. Had a mud hog on the back, which was kind of uncommon for a 4400. He added that on. Ran a 13-foot header on it. We designed this pond to catch the rainwater, runoff water. Here it is, brimming full, going out the overflow pipe. The overflow pipe is right here somewhere. This is my 2009 Z71 I had. I bought it brand new. I hand built this brush guard that was on the front of it. It wasn't very pretty, but it was styled as could be. That was a good old truck. I traded it off for a Duramax. It had 142,000 miles on it when I traded it, and it was used and abused like a 3/4 ton truck. This here, we got the backhoe out here scraping the mud out from in front of the pan and in front of the gills there where we can get the tractor out easier. This is Robert going out with the bush hog for the first time to use it. Used to be grapevines up on the side of the hill. My granddaddy loves some fruit trees. Here's our haul from the garden: okra, green tomatoes, red tomatoes, cucumbers, squash. Our first sweet corn patch. This is the first year we hadn't had a sweet corn patch in I don't know how long. But it just got to be more work than it was worth. This is our 1949 model John Deere A. Bush hogging down corn stalks. In fact, we've got a whole video of it doing that. Little Grace after we went fishing. That's us at the lake. Grace is big cheese in there. Got the representing Tennessee tractor. Robert, he's our official combine washer man. He had just washed the 6620, the Turbo 6620. We had added this 50 series boot, or this near series boot, on the end of that auger there, like the newer combines have. Hooking up the corn header to go to the cornfield. Got her all ready to go for the cornfield. These are 24 532s is what this combine has got. Our 9400 has 30.532s. The old gray International Winter two-tone colors. I painted these fenders gray and was going to run like some pinstripes down there, through there, but never got that fixed. Of course, I had the Mexican chrome wheels there. Had that galvanized paint, like the ugliest color you could ever put on there. First year we ever put corn in the bins. First year we ever used the bins. This was my granddad's old straight auger. used an old tire for the trough. It worked really well until we got ready to move the auger, and then you got all this full of corn. But as far as operating and using it, man, it worked great. We borrowed this truck off a buddy. This is the first grain drill I ever bought. It was a Case International Mintail drill. That was a really excellent drill. Paid $1,300 for it. That's grace inside of the drill. I think that's ryegrass seed we have in it. Cutting beans over at Frog Jump. I think this is the year that Robert got hurt, and that was actually Michelle driving the grain cart for me. In cab picture of cutting the beans. That 18-foot header, you could take 7 rows. I was cutting them straight with the rows instead of an angle. I always like cutting straight with the rows if you can, but a lot of times it just seems like I cut a lot better at an angle. This is my old service trailer. This was a 2-wheel hand-built trailer my granddad had, and then I took it and had a fuel tank on it, an air compressor, a torch, and on the other side I built a little rack and had a triangle toolbox on it. I was the OG on the service trailers, and it actually worked very well. I didn't have a ton truck at the time, and I would just hook this behind my pickup and pull it to the field, and it actually worked quite well. And at the time, you can tell we're there at the shop, but I didn't even use the big tank at the shop. I would take this tank here and go to co-op and fill it up with 150 gallons, and I thought I was a big dog filling that tank all the way up. If you filled a fuel tank up, you was really doing something. And now we probably go through 5,000-6,000 gallons of diesel fuel a year, probably. This is cutting that field that this field here, we actually cut hay off of it. This was the first year we worked it, made like 2 round bales to the acre. And then we no-tilled beans in it, had some 2-year-old seed. We no-tilled them at like 200,000 population and freshly baled ground, and made like 40 bushels to the acre. I cannot be that lucky anymore. If I'd have done that these days, they'd probably made 20. Okay, so this is the first planter setup I had. Bought this planter at an auction and completely rebuilt the row units. That was the first uh, version of our planter, and it was 27 foot from the tip of this marker to the tip of that marker. So I went up in Illinois and bought this set of transport wheels and this hitch and added to this planter, and I would pull this planter a long ways down the road so it wouldn't be so wide for transport. And that's set down on the ground so you can tell, how it operated. That's just planting some soybeans in some minimum till ground. I think we ran the scratcher do all over that ground. This would have been, this just the old picture that wound up in here. This is my granddad building his pond at his house. It's one of the 4640s and a dirt pan. This is the 4230 that we have the loader on now, and he used to have the front end blade on it, and it looks like the pan is hung up and he's pushing them as they unload the dirt. But this is my granddad. He wore a hard hat all the time. As you can tell, he used to have his 42 set up a lot more aggressively than what it is now. Of course, had rice and cane tires on it, clamp on gills, and that's that ripper, old V ripper that we had that we used to pull before we bought the inline ripper. Robert said when he was recording this with me, he said that this was the first time he had ever driven a combine. And this is kind of when we started improving our wheat yields. I think that wheat there made like 88 bushels to the acre. It was some good wheat. This was when we first started having trouble with Roundup resistant weeds. At first we had trouble with mare's tail, and then later on these pigweeds come up. So we sprayed the mare's tail with first rate, and that killed them, and then these pigweeds, we sprayed them with a product called Flexstar GT, and it just smoked them. But this is Daddy baling hay with a New Holland 851 round baler. It was okay for what it was. We really didn't shed any tears when it left. This fence row is not here any longer, and this cornfield here is now part of the hayfield. And that is just the ugliest thing I've ever seen. That is something I put together to keep limbs from coming up over the blade. We later cut that off and got a better deal now. This is delivering seed beans down to the seed plant at Halls. We used to grow cropland seed beans for co-op, and that's me down there delivering beans. One of the first water trailers we had, you can tell this old trailer, it had 2 different size wheels on it. Just we used to farm with some junk. No other way to say it. We've come a long way. If you told me back then when we was pulling that we would be pulling the water trailer we have now, I probably would have called you a liar. But right here's the first year we plowed in hydrous. This would have been 2013. Pulling a 7-shank anhydrous bar, single tank. This would have been around the 21st of March. I used to jump out there pretty early and start planting. The older I got, I've kind of scaled back on that. But this is on the farm I bought, and this is a spring. You can see this water here bubbling up out of the ground. And I don't know what I was thinking trying to cross it. I was young and a lot more rambunctious back then. But old wore out rice and canes just don't do very well. But we would later go on that fall, we actually put tile lines in this and took that water to the ditch. And this still stays kind of wet, but now we can farm across this now. You only get one trip across it. Even with the tile lines in it, one trip across it's all you get. That's when we started building food plot planters. We hand built this frame, or bought the material and built this frame from scratch. Later on, we would start using the actual frame from the original planter to build this, because it would all bolt together. But the original prototype planter we built, we welded all this up, hand welded it. Ground drive Alice Chandler's planter units, no-till coulters. We used to buy them planters for about $1,200, and we could pay for the planter just by selling one 2-row planter, and then the rest would be profit. But this is the first prototype planter we built. The man that built this planter actually come back and he bought 2 more of them. They put in a lot of wildlife plots. The only thing I should have done on this planter here was I reused the original chain, and you can tell they're kind of kinked up right there. We had soaked them in oil. When he got to running it, they eventually freed up, but we probably should have put a new chain on it for the man, but he was very happy with the planter. This is when we went into mass production. There's a 3-row there in the back. I think the biggest we ever built was a 6-row 20-inch planter. I think there's about 5 planters in this video. This is when I bought my grain drill. Paid $1,300 for it. It was a Case International minimum till drill. It was a sure enough good drill. This is my combine when we went and looked at it in Streeter, Illinois. Had same as new 30.5, 32 tires on it. So you can tell here it was still 2-wheel drive. We later converted it to 4-wheel drive. We later took this bend extension off and put a different bend extension on. This is us after we went and bought this folding frame and converted our planter from a 3-point to a pull type. This is us running the 4650 through the 4th of July parade. That's everybody on the trailer. It's my Aunt Patricia, Michelle, Grace, Bob, my granny, my sister, and my mom. That's going down one of the streets in Dyer during the 4th of July parade. Robert and Grace riding horses. This was Romeo and this was Batman. They since got old and passed away. That's us taking a break, getting a drink, and going back to work after taking a little break. It's a picture of Robert. We had a field day on the farm. We had a test plot. It was an Augusta test plot. And that was a picture taken of him and it. Daddy and Robert in the soybean field. I think that's over at Frog Jump on Daddy's farm. First year we ran the 9400. We was running it and the 6620 together. First time I ever rented a track hoe. We was putting this pipe in here, and actually that pipe ended up blowing out because I did not pack it in good. This was planting no-till corn behind corn, which I would not recommend doing it at all. You can tell here it was really probably too wet. Probably shouldn't have even been out there planting. But you live and you learn. We was planting decab 6188, and that corn eventually ended up, didn't completely get down, but it did fall over a little bit. This is when we got done planting and brought the planter home and cleaned it up. We had just painted it and done all the modifications to it. We put the airbags on it for downforce. Put all new shafts in it, new chains. Put the hydraulic drive on it. Right here's the air compressor for the airbags, the electric fertilizer pump, the filter for the hydraulic drive, and we would eventually even add even more stuff. Right here's the engine for the 4650, and it come out of a 9950 cotton picker. We had to end up putting a new engine in it. At the time, it seemed like a terrible thing, but it ended up being great. This is a 200 horsepower engine, got a P pump on it instead of an A pump, and it essentially turned our 4650 from a 4650 to a 4850. Here's our oats once they had headed out. I really miss growing oats sometimes. This is side dressing corn with the side dress rig. We bought this from Co-op. We would side dress 8 rows. I actually got a buddy that still got this well and pump, and he runs it on a side dress rig he built. But I miss side dressing corn sometimes. Sometimes I wish we still had a coulter rig I wish we had one that had knives on it back here behind the coulters and inject that fertilizer down in the ground is what I wish. His air conditioner must have not been working that day. He's got the windows open. This is when I decided I was going to get in the cattle business. My granddaddy's old peach orchard, I had done got tired of mowing it. I bought a set of fenced around it, bought a set of calves to graze it. Well, eventually I ended up getting out of the cattle business, but it worked at the time. This is us harvesting oats. That's a load of oats on the grain cart. This is the first service truck we ever had. We went from the service trailer to this service truck. It was a 1986 F350. I bought it off auction time. Bought it online, sight unseen. It come from Louisiana. It was supposed to have a 6.9 diesel in it, but somebody had converted it to a 7.3 diesel with a 5-speed transmission in it. That's us harvesting at night, the grain cart, putting corn on the trailer. One of the first years we ran the 6-row header, we was shelling some really good corn right there. You can see them big old ears flop down and how thick we had it planted. Robert and Daddy unloading on the go over there at Frog Jump. That was some sure enough good corn. That was us over at Frog Jump after we had finished up for the night. Right here's a little custom job we done. We used to do quite a bit more custom work than what we do now. Sometimes looking back, it amazes me the acres we ran that old 6620 over. We cut them beans here and they looked wet as crap, but they ended up checking dry. I don't know how, but that was a custom job. That day we ended up though in more green stem beans. We ended up breaking, I think it was a hydrostat belt that broke, and it took out all the belts up underneath that seat. That was an $800 day. But you can tell that old 6620 has some fuel thrown to it. That's Robert and Grace. We was doing some dirt work, and we're running the transit. I'm up on the hill with the transit, and Grace is following him around. Of course, Grace wanted to hold the pole. A little under 3 foot tall at that time. She probably 3 or 4 if I had to guess. She still likes her pink. Here's when we had that rental track hole, and right here we're digging a ditch through the springs to the main ditch of the farm, and we thought that would make these springs dry up, but it never really did. What finally fixed it is we ended up digging ditches parallel to the rows, and we took that dirt and piled it up and built it up. And now all that water runs in them ditches, and we're able to plant all this, and we just got a PTO ditch running that water off in the main ditch. Why that worked and digging these, I guess you would call them lateral ditches, didn't work, I really don't know. But we've got it fixed now and able to plant all that. Here we had to replace the rollers on this side of the reel. Had to rebuild all them. There's little baby corn dog. He was a little butterball. He was such a happy little baby. This is the first year we had the 6620, and the combine was actually already sold at that point, but we made a deal with the guy that bought it that we could run it until we finished up with harvest. So we ran 2 finishing up that year. But it was a pretty good old combine. Sometimes I wish I'd kept it just so we could run 2 in soybeans like we did right here. These was some 5.5 cropland beans. They was seed beans, and they was loaded up. They was some bushy son of guns. I must have bought these calves out of the bargain bin, because that's a pretty junky Hereford calf there. But I used to plant cover crops. You can see here we got some radishes, some turnips, some cereal rye, got some volunteer corn, and then I would run this poly wire around the field and turn them calves out and graze that cover crop, not have to buy any hay. This was a custom job. This was one of the first jobs I ever used on my 9400 on. This was the day after Trump won the 2016 presidential election. I was on cloud 9, had me a new combine, and Trump was president. And here we are back in 2024, and Trump is president again. So there's them calves grazing that cover crop. This truck right here, that gray International I had dropped a valve in the engine, and we ended up having to overhaul it, so I rented this truck one fall. I think I ended up having to pay $2,500 rent, and he didn't want but $8,500 for the truck. And why I didn't go on and buy that truck, I don't know. It had an N14 in it. Seemed to be a really good truck. I probably ought to have my butt kicked for not buying it. But I didn't feel like I had the money at the time. There's no many telling how many deals I've passed on over the years because I didn't feel like I had the money. But we was so proud of that old combine, coming from that 6620 to that 9400. We was on cloud 9. There's little Walt. That's one of my favorite pictures I've got of him, was with the combine and him with his little John Deere shirt on, just so chubby and happy. Right here is the truck, the screen. I took a screenshot of when I bought that truck off auction time. Right there it was, $1,900. I don't know where the truck ended up. I ended up selling the truck to some boys in Paris, Tennessee. Right here's me slinging some ammonium nitrate on wheat. I'm not real sure why I used ammonium nitrate that year. Right here you can see where I just cleaned that fence row off. This picture here, this is Daddy's truck. It's a 94 Chevrolet. And why I was using it, I have no clue, because I had that 2009 GMC at the time. But we're pulling this gravity wagon, and that was my seed trailer. Had the beans on it. Didn't have a motor on it, so I would pull behind the planter, take these hoses, run up there to the tractor, and used the hydraulics on the tractor to turn the auger. And then I hooked my service trailer behind the seed wagon there. So we had a double hitch there. But for the life of me, I can't figure out why I decided to use Daddy's truck that day. But it looked like the Clampets going to the field. But there's me filling the grain drill up. We was that must have been that'd been the second year I worked that farm. We was no-tilling it. Finished up cutting wheat there. That's on my mother-in-law's farm. You can tell we had got the better brush guard for the blade, front end blade. Cutting some pretty good wheat right there with the 6620. Shelling some really good corn right there with the 6620. That's little Grace right there helping me work on the grain auger. That's when we pulled the grain auger out of the weeds, and the first time we ever put grain in the bin. And I must have been really proud of this grain drill because I put multiple pictures in of it. Grace visiting me at the field. I was baling hay that day, apparently. It's not long after I got burnt, because as you can tell, it's the summertime and I'm wearing long sleeves. I was supposed to wear them long sleeves and keep my arms covered because I had been burnt. And this is one of the last pictures, this old International truck, and we would use it to move equipment around because at the time we only had 2 tractors, and by using that old truck, you know, we could pull that equipment over there to our furthest farm away at Frog Jump and save a lot of diesel fuel and wear and tear on tractor tires by doing that. But this is the end of our first Throwback Thursday video. Let me know what you think about it, if we should kind of change the format of it a little bit, and if you would be interested in seeing more of these. So comment down below how you like it. And thank y'all for watching.